Hi guys, so my name's Chris, and for anyone that's been watching the channel, you'll know that I like to try and help people out a little bit with their English. So I like to do different things depending on my students. So I teach on some different platforms, and the students that I have, sometimes we notice that there are some certain areas that might need a little bit of extra improvement, and for those smaller areas, I like to try and create some content, such as like preposition quizzes, things like that, so they can try and improve those aspects. Again, obviously, it depends on the problem. So for those of you that haven't watched me before, then my name's Chris. So the channel that you're watching is English with Chris, um, and I create YouTube videos, but I also teach on several platforms, my main platform being Italki. For those of you that are familiar with Italki, you know that it's somewhere where you can have a teacher or a tutor, although, to be honest, there really isn't much difference. You have tutors that are qualified to be teachers but don't want to be, like myself, for example. Various reasons for that. I won't go into them, and most people have different reasons. But anyway, so that's my platform of choice. I really like italki as a platform. For me, as a teacher, tutor, it's very convenient. It's a nice way to find some new students. Um, but the platform itself, it's quite good. Of course, as with all platforms, there are things that could be improved upon, things that are already pretty good, and and nowhere's ever going to be perfect. For me, as a teacher, tutor, I liked the way that it automatically adjusts to my time zone. So if I were to go to a different country on holiday or visit my parents, for example, I know that it's going to recognize the time difference, and it will prompt me. It will ask me, we notice that the times don't match up. Would you like to change your time zone? Which, of course, is great because not that I've ever done this, but there's a real possibility that you could maybe overlook the time change, and maybe you know there could be some mix up because of that. But yeah, that's one thing I do like quite a lot about italki. It sounds silly maybe, but there are actually quite a lot of different platforms or places online to learn English where that's not actually considered, which is a bit weird if you ask me. Um, yeah, I mean italki, it's also one of the places where for teachers, tutors, you can create a profile. So you can add some information about yourself. For students, they can obviously look through the different profiles, the ones that are shown to them, and so they can read a bit about the different tutors, teachers, see if they think they'll click. So when I say click in this case, like you come together, if you think you match up, which is also pretty important, of course. Um, yeah, what else? So with italki, I do like the fact that we're relatively free to offer lessons that we would want to offer. Um, so I mostly offer like conversational English, but I also offer IELTS preparation and interview preparation, things like that. So actually, IELTS preparation and general conversation are my two favorites. I really enjoy teaching those two things. I've been teaching for a long time, but let's say um, some things aren't as exciting to teach as they once were. Some things, you have ebbs and flows, as with most professions, I would imagine. So with IELTS, it's actually quite enjoyable because, especially if we look at the spoken component, there are lots of different questions that could be asked. So if you're preparing for the exam, of course you want to try and focus on as many different questions as possible to make sure that your vocabulary is going to be well suited enough to be able to answer questions on those different topics. And there really is a plethora of different topics that could come up. So even for me, if I'm teaching someone that's not preparing for IELTS and we're doing general conversation, and for whatever reason, um, they don't want to talk about something too specific, then we can use some IELTS questions as well. And it can be quite interesting. Like some of the questions, I can almost guarantee they wouldn't be things that you would usually talk about. So to be talking about those relatively on the spot with the vocabulary that you have, um, it can be quite eye-opening. So you might realize that, oh, actually, I thought I could talk about that topic quite easily. And then you realize that, actually, that was relatively tricky, which is a good thing. So that doesn't have to be a bad thing. You don't want to be thinking, oh no, what do I do now? Um, we we want to look for things that you can't do so well, because of course the things that you can do well, you can do well. There's no point in you know studying something you can already do or learning words about something that you can already express yourself about very well. So it's always nice if we come across something that is maybe lacking a little bit. Of course, it depends on the subject. If we notice it's the you're lacking vocabulary on biophysics and you have absolutely nothing to do with biophysics in your life, it's not going to be important. We don't need to work on vocabulary for biophysics, for example. But sometimes it might happen that we're talking about driving, and you realize, oh, I don't know the word for motorway, or what would I say if I'm going around a roundabout and I want to take the second turn? So we'd say like the second exit. So take the second exit, etc. So things like that, and it can be quite interesting, like I mentioned. Um, so that's another thing I like about italki. We can choose more or less what we would like to teach, within reason, of course. And you'll find a vast array of teachers there. And for the same reason, I also find a vast array of different students. And I'm very much a people person. I love talking, I like communicating with people, learning about people's lives, what interests them, etc. And I've met some great people along the way. Some of my students I've had for years already, and hopefully will have for many more years. And it's always very interesting. You become invested in that person, because I mean you become friends basically, which is great. So you still help. There's lots to help about, etc. But it becomes a little bit more personal. Doesn't have to be, of course. It depends on you. Um, yeah, so that's something that's nice about italki. And I meet people from various different backgrounds, different professions, different age groups, etc. So it's very interesting. It's definitely an interesting job. Um, I don't, I wouldn't say it's a good job to go into at the moment. For anyone that's hoping to do something like this in terms of making a living, because It's very much oversaturated at the moment for various reasons, which anyone that looks back over the past few years, you will probably notice why. But also very rewarding. So anyway, that's a little bit about me. So what I like to do on Italki, and yeah, and what I'm doing with this channel. So for anyone that wonders where I get some of my ideas from, it's probably from my students if they request something or they would like some more information or some exercises. I try to cater to my students as much as possible. So for anyone that's not seen it yet, I started a new series relatively recently, about 3 Sundays ago, where every Sunday I release a new video about, well, not about, but I'll be reading a chapter of The Wizard of Oz. Very good book, a classic, and I record it in such a way that I'll be reading it, but the text will be on the page at the same time. So I'm a big fan of different learning techniques in language acquisition in general. And I know a lot of people like to do shadowing at the moment. So with this type of video, it works quite well for shadowing because you can then listen to how I pronounce the sentence or how I say a sentence, and then you could pause it and try to emulate that. So for anyone interested in that, I recommend Sundays. And yeah, and also a big thank you to everyone that subscribed. So I've hit 15 subscribers. Might not sound much to a lot of you, but I'm always very pleased to see that number grow and to see new faces around. So if you do like the videos, please do leave a like and subscribe if it interests you, and hopefully see you around some more for some future videos. If anyone has any suggestions for things that they might like, especially something that I could do over a long period of time, like I've been doing some quizzes, that would be very much appreciated. Okay, so I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day. Take care, and bye bye for now.